Hi, everyone. You're well? But you're cold? It's a season, it will pass, right? Um, hmm. So Vincent said, come and talk to a couple of people, and then he said it will not be scripted. I was like, yes, for the first time. I don't know how many of you Googled me when you saw the poster? Yes? No? No? So I start from, I give every detail. Sawa, no worries. So aside from my name and my title, by the way, that role of Vice Chairperson of the Association of Media Women in Kenya is a voluntary role. So it is not where I earn my daily bread from, but it is my pride and joy, and that is why it's the one that I said should be put there, and it's the one that I identify with everywhere that I go. But in terms of what I do for a living, I am an editor, currently with a company based in France. And I love that when Vincent was speaking, he said that him and Caleb met on LinkedIn. So me and my current employer met on Twitter. I've never met him physically like this. He reached out to me because he saw the type of work I've been doing, and then he's like, would you be interested in working with us? And then opposite to how Kenyan employers usually do it, they're like, oh, they call you for an interview and then you get a panel. Now it was him selling himself to me. This is what we write about. We have, I don't know, 10 countries. We are a team of small, we're a team of about 5. He started mentioning things, and then he got to the money part as well. Basically, a guy who's trying to entice you and tell you nice things, like when you're katiwad. So basically, alinikatia nikawacha Citizen nikaenda kwake. But just to kick off and start from the very basics, like where I was born, etc. I was born in Nakuru, at War Memorial Hospital. Anyone from Nakuru? Oh, nice. Very nice coincidence. So I'm the firstborn in a family of 3. There's me, my brother Ron, and my sister Rita. Went to Moi Primary School, also in Nakuru. And then for the longest time, I was that chick who's always number 1. And then those days we used to have badges, best in English, best in French, best in, this one does zilikuwa zangu hapa, zote. All up to here. And after that went to high school, Loreto Limuru. But then the feats of being number 1 in everything disappeared. And you know why it disappeared? Actually, when I moved to high school, now I used to be number 1 from the bottom. So we were about 45 in a class. So I would be the number 39, 40, 41, playing just down there, And you know the reason why? It's because my dad lost his job. He used to work at Pyrethrum Board of Kenya in Nakuru. So when he lost his job, he set up a chemist. My dad is a doctor. He set up a chemist in Nakuru, which didn't kick off, so it fell apart. So my mom was like, why don't we move to Mombasa? Excuse me, my mom's mom at the time was a counselor. And you know how Kanu was the it those days, 1990s. So my grandmom was a counselor. And of course, counselor came with wealth. So she said, my grandmom said, I'll support you. Hi, karibu. I'll support you because we didn't have a source of income. So she's the one who'd send us food because she owned a farm somewhere, I think in Mtwapa. So she'd send us like a car in the evening with food for the week. And then she also paid my fees from Form 1 to Form 4. And then when I finished, because she was now the leader of the family, so to speak, right? The person who provides for the home is the leader of the family. So she said, I got a B+. She said, since you got a B+, and then I was called to Maseno University to do maths. I really loved maths, which is quite ironic compared to what I'm doing today. Journalism, maths, no correlation, right? But I'll get to how I got here. So she said, so since you like maths and everything, you should go to a university in Uganda. So I'd be called to Maseno to do maths, but at the time, I think it still exists now. You still have to wait for like 2 years to join public uni, right? Maybe it has changed, I'm not sure. 1, okay. So my parents were not, can I say, not well informed, or rather they didn't have the means to keep me busy for those 2 years. You know what I mean? Like take me for computers, take me for driving. Like it was a privilege at the time. So because they couldn't do that, they were like, your grandmother is suggesting this, go with what she's suggesting. And she was suggesting that I go to a university in Uganda called Bugema. There were so many Kenyans from there, and most of them were Kisis and Jaluos. And then it's an SDA university. So I went there and stayed there for 1 semester, first of all, because there was no meat. SDAs don't eat meat, right? Napenda nyama. But aside from the meat aspect, to me at the time, it felt like everyone who was there had scored grades that could not give them access to Kenyan universities. You know what I mean? So I felt out of place. You'd be in class, and then every time the lecturer asks a question, I'm the only one who's answering, you know? So it felt like I wasn't being challenged, and I wanted to be in an environment where at least I have people around me who know more than me. And then aside from that, ilikuwa ni ushago. So the bare necessities, they didn't have them. Like there were pit latrines, they were using pit latrines, and then there were no doors in the bathroom, and it's a mixed school, girls and boys. So munaonana mkioga. It was culture shock, but I also felt like I got a raw deal and I deserved more, because a B+ should land you somewhere else, right? So I remember every time my parents, like I would call my parents probably on a Saturday when I would get a phone, and I would be crying, and my mom would be like, don't cry, you'll be fine, be strong. You know, our mothers tell us, vumilia. But I understood where she was coming from, right? Because not everybody can have the opportunity to be sent to a university. Most people, especially girls, school either ends at class 8 or form 4, right? If you don't have funds, if you don't get a scholarship. So I understood what my mom was saying, but in me, it wasn't sitting well with me. So I came back to face the wrath of my grandmother, came back to Mombasa, and then she was very annoyed. She didn't talk to me for like, 2-3 months. But my dad said, it's okay. You were not okay, and you spoke up. So I want you to go to Nairobi and look for a university that you feel you will thrive. So I came to Nairobi, stayed with some relatives, went to Daystar. I was like, Maze, these rules are so many, I won't survive here. You know, dress code, all those things. Then I went to, which other university? Catholic University of East Africa. It was a bit too far because I was living with relatives who were far from where CUEA is. And then I came to USIU, and I think I got someone to take me around at the time. That was 2004. And even as the person was speaking, it was like my heart was saying yes to everything. And then at one point I saw the VC, what's her name? Frida Brown. And she was speaking to some student. And I was like, that's so weird. And it was at the cafeteria, because this person who was taking me around, we were now at the cafeteria and we were having tea. And then I'm seeing the VC here, she's seated with students. I'm like, how? Like the place where I'd come from in Uganda, the lecturers have their own place. Like you can't access there. You're a student. What do you think you're doing? Go back to where students, there's segregation. But here, it was so refreshing to find that titles were not a thing, like interaction. You interact with them irrespective of who they are in the school, and they mix with the students. It makes a difference. Even in the workplace, I've come to learn that if you're able to interact with people at the top and treat them like human beings, it makes such a difference. So anyway, that was USIU. I did Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. Not related to journalism at all, right? But I picked it because there was nothing at that time that I felt was close enough to that mathematics thing of mine, you understand? So I finished. I don't know whether Dalton Ndirangu is still around. He is? Yeah, he was one of my lecturers. And then another very old guy, can't remember his name. Anyway, But the classes I enjoyed the most were the communications classes. Hey, I used to score, I can't remember the scores, and the scores didn't actually matter, but I enjoyed the lectures, I enjoyed the way she was engaging us. Little did I know that's where I would end up. So I graduated in 2007, and at that time, they had added the fees because they were building this new library. So when we graduated at Kasarani, not here. And I remember us complaining, why are they adding the fees? We'll never get to use the library. This is not fair, but anyway. It's nice to see that we contributed to something that following later generations are using, right? That's USIU. I never vied for any leadership position. Like the things that I'm doing now are so out of character for me that I usually look back and like, how did I end up here? So I wasn't in any student union, anything, but I remember I was in Rotaract, but as a member, not as a, you know what I mean? So that was the end of USIU for me. But that year they had their career fair, just like this one. And then Nation Media Group came. They were one of the many companies that came, and they were employing interns. Actually, not interns. They were looking for management trainees. They called them management trainees at the time. So you're seeing how now I entered the media space. Yeah, so they had something at the auditorium. They gave a speech the way I'm giving now. And then they said, after we're done, you can meet us to Kutane Nyuma tent if you're interested. So I was like, I've done IT. Why would they, take interest in me? But I was like, what the heck, let me try it. I'd already done my internship at Standard Chartered Bank. I used to file, there was no internet. So I used to file papers. You're told, take this stack of papers, go put them in a file. Take another one, go put them in a file. Yeah, so I went and met them, and they were like, you've started very interesting courses, and we think this will be very useful in the newsroom. Because at the time, they were like, they needed people who haven't studied journalism so that they can reach out to different audiences, niche markets, right? So that if you've done IT or if you've done medicine, law, you can write to lawyers, your articles can speak to doctors, right? So that is how I ended up at Nation Media Group. Entered as a management trainee. When I finished, they said I can apply. There was a job opening as an online editor. So I applied and then got in, was employed, and I spent 7 years at Nation Media Group, 2007 to 2014. And another thing that I didn't go through is stomaching. And you look back and, the little things that you don't think about, someone else has graduated and they're tamarking for years and years and they don't get a job. And you've gotten a job and you think it's, it's like an everyday thing. It's not. Yeah, there's a reason why that opening at Nation worked for me, and I got to work there for 7 years. 2014, the reason why I left was because I fell into depression. The hours that I used to work were from 4 p.m. until midnight. So reporters go out to the field, talk to the Kenya Kwanzas, the Wajakoyas, then they come back to the newsroom, and then they type out the story. Then it's laid out in the Gazette. Then when it's sent to the printing press, now us at 4 p.m. we come in, pick those ones and put them on the website. That was the type of work we used to do. So basically it's like copy-paste, right? It was a lot of copy-paste. So working from 4 to midnight means that you have no social life, right? Because at midnight when you're leaving, and then they used to drop us home. So I would get home at around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. because they drop other people first, then they drop me. I used to live in Nairobi West at the time. So I was among the last who would be dropped. So by the time you're getting home, you're very tired, right? You go to sleep or you make supper or whatever. What time are you waking up the next morning? Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost the whole morning has gone. And then you can't really plan anything, especially in Nairobi. If you're going to do something, let's say in town, it will take you the entire day, right? So basically you're operating between your bed and the office, And then I also used to work weekends as well. So that means family functions, the rural shows, the baptisms, all these plots for weekend, and Vasha, Couldn't make it. Me, I was chapaing jobo, right? So you're seeing the same people every day. So your circle ni wale munafanya, the person who's sitting opposite you. So that was my life for 7 years. And then aside from that, there was a glass ceiling, especially for women. I found women at Nation who had worked there for 10, 20 years in the same position. And I always kept thinking to myself, Yani, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. And then I wasn't thinking of it the way I'm talking now. I was like, oh my God, I'm so doomed. This job is so, you know. And then I had a really tough boss. Anytime you come to the office, you report at 4 p.m., you get an email. Why did you make this mistake? Why did you leave so early? Why did you? Every single day, like always finding fault, every single day. And when you have self-esteem issues, which I didn't talk about, but I'll talk about, whenever someone criticizes you, you take it negatively. So you might find even if he was trying to guide you, your state of mind won't allow you to see that he's actually correcting you, maybe not in a very nice way, but it's related to work, and he's your boss, so he has the right, isn't it? So I took it the wrong way. So all these things combined plus my social life led to, or rather contributed to depression. And then the incident where, not the incident, the time that we moved from Nakuru to Mombasa, I remember asking my mom, why are we moving? I'm leaving all my friends. You know, those are the things that matter to you at that time when you're that age. And then she said, stop asking me that question. If you don't want to move, then go and live in Kisumu. Generation of parents who asking a question is like criticizing their position as your mother. You know what I mean? So the fact that my parents could not see that I was confused about the moving is why I moved from position 1 in Moi Primary to position 45 at Loreto Limuru. And that was my position for the rest of the 4 years. Because you're also going through adolescence. Limuru is very cold. It's like this, like the entire year. So we used to wear gloves and stockings, but my fingers used to fura. They used to look like sausages. A lot of changes. You've moved at home. Your dad has lost his job. He's not talking. He's chapaing your mom. And then you come to school. No one is understanding you. You don't know who to talk to. You know, all these changes, and no one is addressing them. We didn't have like, you have a counseling center, right? Yeah, we didn't have that. So this self-esteem depression thing started way back, not at Nation. So I can't say that it was my boss who caused my depression. It is a series of things that were not addressed. So 2014, because now the people you're seeing are the ones you work with, I ended up getting attracted to a man who I would see from Sunday to Sunday, right? We started dating, I became pregnant. So I had my first child, when was she born? 2013. Actually, 2013. I tried leaving Nation in 2013. Then the HR lady was like, why are you leaving? Who's going to pay for your child's maternity? Because we had a very good health insurance cover. How is it going to get paid if you leave? How are you going to get money to buy clothes? Yani, she really made me feel like if I leave, it's going to be the end of the world. So I ended up staying and didn't leave 2013 as I wanted and left in 2014. But having a child changes you. You start thinking, I seriously do not want to be here for the next 20 years, doing the same thing, living at midnight. And then when you have a child, how are you living work at midnight? So 2014, I took the leap. I left with no backup plan. Please don't do that. I had applied to so many jobs. I'd gone online and checked Unilever email address HR, sent to that one. Standard HR email, sent to that one. I think I sent like 100 emails and none was replied. But there's something about your state of mind and self-esteem and depression. People who are reading your emails, they can sense your desperation. Because if the way I'm speaking right now is the way I write my application letters, you'll hire me. I'm speaking very nicely right now. But it's taken a journey for me to be able to speak like this. Tuendelee na story. So I left with no backup plan. At one point, because I was unable to breastfeed, I had issues with my breasts. Let's be candid nowadays, we talk about these things. I couldn't breastfeed. The child would try and breastfeed and blood would come out because I had inverted nipples and my gynecologist didn't tell me. So my child ended up being on formula for the entire 6-8 months. So at some point, I remember I was selling my furniture to buy the formula. I sold, I think, watches. There were some really nice watches I used to sell. Then when that didn't work out, I started selling clothes. I would go to Gikomba, get clothes, wash them, iron them. Then I try and sell them. That didn't work out. And then I started baking. And then I would bake and take to my aunties for a birthday. Then they knew that I had not, like, I didn't have a job. Then they're like, so you sell, we'll buy, we'll support you during this time that you don't have a job. So I started doing that, and then my aunties would tell their friends, you know how these things start? Yeah, you just start as a hobby to keep busy, and then now it grows into a business. I have still kept that page, even though it's been inactive for like, I think, 2-3 years. If you go to IG and check Rahel's Cakes, Rahel's_cakes, you'll find the cakes that I used to sell. Ukiziangalia sahi baze zinakaa vibaya, but those days, those days I tried. And then my mom is a chef. She's a, what can I call it? At events. She plans events, she cooks, she bakes. So when we were young, she used to bake a lot. So the basics of baking were not new to me, but the icing, those fancy decorations, I didn't know how to do that. So I'd go to YouTube, and then I see how it's done, then I try it, do like that. So because I had guinea pigs, like relatives for guinea pigs, they were my guinea pigs. I would do a design, send it somewhere. Yeah, so I got quite good thanks to YouTube. And then I got a job at Refugees United, an organization that used to work with refugees in Kakuma. I think that was 2016. And I was their online editor. So we go to Kakuma, talk to the refugees, and talk about their experiences. They tell you about them. They tell you about the families where they've left in Sudan and all these other places. Then you come back to Nairobi, write the story. But you know what these guys at Refugees United were doing? They were using those stories to earn funds, and not to earn funds to make life better for Kakuma guys, but to put in their pockets. So I lasted there for only 6 months, right? Because it didn't feel right. Yes, I was earning a lot of money. I'd been out of a job for so long, but it didn't feel right. So when I left, stayed out for 1 month, and then got a job at Tuko. Tuko had just started, and so I was still doing the editor job. And then from Tuko, I got employed at Citizen TV. The pay was good, and then of course, Citizen being number one, you're like, yeah, why not move from Tuko to Citizen? So at Citizen, I stayed there for, let's see, 20. By the way, I have to mention, I got the job at Citizen when I was pregnant. Can you imagine? And Citizen was one of the companies where I'd applied. Remember that time when I was sending like 100 emails left, right, center? Citizen was one of them. But when I tell you someone can smell low self-esteem, the Rachel of 2014 was very different from the Rachel of 2016. Because I had been baking, I had worked on myself, like I'd changed. And especially when you become a mom and you have strong women supporting you, I had really changed. Yeah, I had a positive outlook on life. So by the time they're interviewing this girl who is like, mimba imefika hapo. It means that the conversation we had with them in that room, they saw something. And it didn't matter that I was going to give birth. A month later, they were like, we want this girl, right? She's going to add something to this company. So I entered Citizen TV and then gave birth a month later. So I was out on maternity leave for 3 months, which they paid for, and then came back and started working. 1 month into my Citizen TV job, a certain man, about 20, 30 years older than me, sends me a message and says, hey, you're so hot. I want to tap that. And when you've given birth, your body doesn't snap back like this, right? So I've gained weight, I'm looking, yeah. And then the clothes I used to wear before no longer fit. So they kind of look tight. And because money is tight, I can't afford a new wardrobe. So you wear what you used to wear before. So when I saw that message, I was thinking, Yani umse. And I started looking at myself and asking, what have I done? Because he made me feel like a sexual object, and it was disgusting. There is a way unaweza katia dem mwambe, hey, Rachel unakapoa leo, right? And it makes you feel nice. That is very different from someone who says, I wanna tap that. What? Excuse me, who the hell do you think you are? Right? And then to make matters worse, he's like my dad, my grandfather. Seriously? Anyway, so I went to HR. I went to HR and said, this nigga has violated my rights. What has he done? He has sexually harassed me. Do you think the Rachel of 2014 would have done that? The one who was desperately sending emails left, right, center. Please employ. Okay, I didn't try to please employ me. But the letter I was writing to USIU was the same letter I was writing to Unilever, was the same letter I was writing to, I think I applied even to PR firms. Nilifanya copy paste and the same letter I was sending everywhere. And when you're applying for jobs, you don't do it like that. You don't do it like that. You are supposed to take a look at the roles that you're supposed to perform if you get into that job, and then say, I have done this maybe in a student club and I can do this for your firm. Basically, give an experience that the person who is reading will be like getting an insight into your life. Are you understanding what I mean? So every letter cannot be the same if you're telling a story about your life, because the experience that you're telling this USIU HR person will be very different from the letter you're writing to Nation Media Group. Because Nation Media Group, you'll be saying, I can write well. I used to write in the student newspaper, right? Let's say if you're applying to a hospital, or I'm going to use Unilever again. Unilever have different products. You will probably have had an experience where you have marketed products. So your experience marketing products will be very different from your experience writing for the USIU paper, isn't it? So the letters cannot be the same. So back to this harassing story. Went to HR. Then HR was like, I'm so sorry he did that to you. I've been getting a lot of reports, but there's nothing I can do because SK Macharia really likes him, so there's no way he's going to go. The only thing I can advise you is just do your best at work. Make sure that you do not slack so that it has a reason to fire you. Just take care of yourself. Dress well. What else was she telling me? Basically, to be a good girl so that I'm not harassed. Does that really make sense? It doesn't make sense because it's the same way. I'm trying to look for an analogy. The way women are told, I don't know, cover up. Like, they dictate everything. How come it's the girl who has to act nice so that she's not harassed? Why can't you tell the man to behave, right? He's the offender, it's not me. Anyway, I speak a lot about sexual harassment. If you Google, you'll see. That's why unacheki passion hapo. So I saw that this lady was not going to help me. And she was like my mom. But at the same time, our moms were not taught how to deal with these things. And she was probably, as much as she's a HR professional, she hasn't been trained. So there's no way she's going to help me. So I can't fault her. I cannot. But because I felt I had not been heard, I approached the Association of Media Women in Kenya. And I said, this has happened to me. And they were like, that is unacceptable. Do you want to file a complaint with Media Council of Kenya? Do you want to file a complaint at the police? We will support you, etc., etc. I said no. I told them all I needed was to be heard so that I don't feel like I'm the one who did something wrong, right? And at AMWIK, I felt heard. I felt like these were my people. Has 30 minutes passed? Oh, perfect, that's okay. And that was how I entered into this organization called the Association of Media Women in Kenya. So when I was becoming a member, because I needed a safe space where I felt if something happens to me, people have my back, right? And nowadays, we are so much with ourselves, so busy, like so much is happening in life. It's so hard to find a group of people who you can talk to without being judged. You can talk to without your story finding itself on, what's that blogger's name called? That one. Yeah? Not a lie, the other one. I think it was a USIU student. You know the one I'm talking about? The one who used to post stories on IG. Yeah? Yes. So nowadays it's very hard for you to even share with a friend and not find your story out there. So AMWIK was a safe space for me. So for the longest time, for about 1-2 years, I was just a member, like seeing how, how things are working, how things are done. But aside from that, I noticed that apart from it being a safe space, they would also give you opportunities to go and speak somewhere. Like, for example, if I didn't come today, if maybe I was held up somewhere, an AMWIK member would have been here, right? So you don't have to have a title per se for you to represent the organization. Anyone can, as long as you're a member, whether you're a student, whether you're a career person. But you won't be given, for example, if you're a student, you won't be given this opportunity if you've never done it before. They will train you first, right? And then you will speak to the members first at several engagements, and then now they'll send you out to the world. So that is what happened to me. I was trained on public speaking. I was trained on media training. I now train with the Media Council of Kenya. Aside from sexual harassment, I train on elections. And not just elections, I train on gender-sensitive reporting. Most of the times, the way the media reports, for example, you remember the IV Wangeshi story? It was made to seem like it was her fault. Most of the time, the media reports issues of GBV like that, right? So part of the training I do right now is show people a different way of doing things, because the media has been doing this for 60 years or so. So it's very difficult to change a culture. But once you train people, slowly by slowly, you change how they do things. And so when most of the times I'm asked to introduce myself, I say I'm a person who pushes for women to change the narrative, right? And we can't change the world. For me, if I've changed you or you or you today, or even just, that's enough, because it will have a ripple effect. You will go and change someone else, right? So that is my goal at the moment, to change the world one person at a time, not just women, but men as well. Because in the fight of sexual harassment, in the fight of getting media to report objectively, it's not only women who need to change, but men as well, right? Because there are women who you'll talk to today and then be like, this has been happening for 10 years. There's nothing we can do about it. But I am like, you can change your mentality. When you meet someone like Rachel today, she'll probably say something that will make you think, oh, I can do that. Oh, I didn't think of it that way. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, the Twitter story. So because my work involves editing, and you don't see my face on screen, even though it is this gorgeous, I use... I never used to do that in 2014. Now I do it a lot. I use social media to market my work. And by market, I don't mean, hi, my name is Rachel, I can edit for you. Hi, my name is Rachel, I can do the... No, I don't do that. What I do is, once I edit a story, or once I read a story from another media house and I have an opinion about it, I'll pick a paragraph from that story, go to Twitter, Facebook, whatever, paste the link, and then post my opinion about it. So someone who is looking to partner with me or have me speak, for example, here, and then they go to my timeline, they will feel like they've interacted with me without interacting with me. You understand what I mean? Like you have an insight into how Rachel thinks because of the stuff she posts. Or if I edit a story and I like it, I'll say, this is an excellent story. I edited it, and this is the part that struck out for me, right? And then when I have a speaking engagement like this one, I will go again and post it and say, I had an excellent time speaking to USIU students. So I am not saying, invite me to speak at your university tomorrow. That is not, There's a nice way of doing things. Even when you're speaking to your friend, you don't tell them, you know what I mean? So there's a way you can, it's called subtle marketing. You can subtly market yourself without seeming to be too obvious and too desperate. So I would encourage you, if you're on Twitter, and I'm very active on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram. On Twitter, my handle is @Rahel_O. Rahel, not Rachel, Rahel. Rahel_O, and capital R and capital O. I'm not looking for followers, but I want you to see what I'm talking about. I don't randomly engage in conversations to make myself trend. That's not my agenda. My agenda is the subtle marketing I was talking about. My agenda is to talk about sexual harassment and call it out when it happens, either on Twitter or wherever. My agenda is to let people know today, as part of the Media Council, we are training on election reporting in Nyeri, and these are the things we'll be training on. So informing, educating, right? Sometimes if I see a nice joke, I will retweet so that I don't look like a robot who's always talking about work. So just have a look at how I do it, and then you will see how these French guys found me on Twitter. Because they used to, and I've seen it's a trend with the global organizations. They do a background check of you even before they send you an email and invite you for an interview. They want to see this person who we are thinking about employing. What is their persona? What is their demeanor? What drives them? What is their passion? So they will check out your Twitter, they'll check out your LinkedIn, and in most applications, when you're sending in the application, they'll ask you, what is your Twitter handle? What is your LinkedIn? That is the purpose for it. They want to see what type of person you are. So before you post something, think about the future impact of what you're posting. And for those of you who are not probably very active on social media, think about starting being active. It has so many opportunities. Like today, I was trying to find where here is, and I kept on getting lost. So as I am walking, I think from from wherever that was, I was looking at my Instagram, and then I saw a DM from Nadia Abdallah. She's the CAS of ICT. Yeah, she has sent me a message inviting me to a breakfast meeting on Friday. And you know how that happened? I like the work she does with the youth, so I've been chatting her on Twitter. Like when she does something, I say, amazing job, or I tell her, what do you think about engaging the youth in this way? And if you look at our conversations on Twitter, you'll think, hey, these guys were mejuana for long. No. I'm creating rapport. I'm building rapport with someone who I feel identifies with what I'm passionate about, right? So yesterday, she posted on her stories and said, I am organizing a networking event for women in leadership, and if you're interested in joining, send me a message and tell me why, and I'm going to pick the person who has the most unique answer. And the time I saw that story, it had been there for 23 hours, so it was almost disappearing. I think it was last night, yeah. So I sent her and said, the reason I would want to be part of the networking meeting is because I want to amplify the issues of women in the media. I sent it, then slept. So today, I'm here walking, looking for SS, what is this place called? Yeah, and then I'm seeing a message, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I'm trying to elaborate on my point of, if you are not active on social media, these are the things it can do for you. Get you to meet people you never thought possible, get you to talk at events, you never thought possible. Hey, I'm going to talk for long, so let me just stop here. I hope you've learned something. Yes. My email is rachel.ombaka@gmail.com. If you feel like reaching out, if you feel like, just picking my brain on a certain issue, please feel free. I'm not a person of titles. We engage like this. Sawa sawa? Thank you so much for listening.